It is a Sunday here in England, and we have a very, very, very special guest here today on the Too Legit Show. My name is Zach, and we are joined by the Baltic gladiator himself, Modestas Bukauskas, who fights on March 27th, UFC 260. How are you?
Doing very, very well, my friend. Thank you very much for having me on.
No worries. And I firstly got to ask, did you see the fights last night, Leon versus Bilal?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Funny, I literally just watched it this morning. Yeah.
Same here. I mean, and one fight I really do want to ask you about that is a fellow Englishman, not Leon, but Darren Stewart. Obviously, that fight was a bit controversial when he took that knee. What did you think of that fight and that stoppage?
Yeah. To be fair, I thought Darren was doing really well at the beginning. Then obviously he ended up getting he did very well with his takedown defense, and then he got caught. And then obviously the ball was sort of going more in Eric's court in terms of control and landing more strikes. And Darren's absolutely tough geezer. Oh my gosh, like he was in the fight. Do you know what I mean? But then obviously it got to the point where he got to a similar position where he's trying to fight back up from the cage. His knee was clearly down. I mean, it's the same. I think there should have been the same sort of situation then, with the Peter Yan fight with
Hmm.
Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. You could argue that that was exactly the same. So surely that should have been a no contest, and Peter Yan kept the title if they deemed this fight a no contest then. Because realistically, judging by that earlier thing, because it was a clear down knee, you should have, given a disqualification win for Darren there. Obviously Darren, like I say, absolutely tough guy, man. He was trying to continue, but obviously I feel like he was a little bit wobbled. So it's a very controversial thing. I mean, obviously it was unintentional. I understand in the heat of the moment you're just thinking, what can I do to finish this fight? But it's good that it got called a no contest. I'm hoping actually that they're able to run that fight back. I think that'll be really interesting to see how that fight would have played out had it had went further on.
Mhm. And obviously, that call, it rested with the doctor, and he had Darren walk forward, which Darren did. Do you think that it should be a call for the doctor or more of the fighter to make?
Well, see, this is the thing. Doctors are looking after the safety of athletes, of fighters. So, you know, technically they're expert, and especially because these doctors are probably have been around fighting quite a lot. I understand there's the factors of will to win and like wanting to be in the fight and stuff like that, which does play a factor. Sometimes that can bring fighters through and give them a good performance. But at the same time, like especially because Darren did look a little bit wobbly still. I mean, I figured it was probably the best call just for both athletes because, like I said earlier, that they can still run it back. It's not like this is, they'll live to fight another day, as they say. And you want to have a longevity. Like if Darren wants to fight another 5 6 years, you got to take care of yourself, and it's the doctor's job to be able to allow the fighters to make a career without getting seriously damaged. So, if the doctor sees it as they're too damaged to continue, and then you gotta give them the credit. At the end of the day, they're just trying to look after us fighters, and I'm glad that they do because along with the drug testing and everything like that, the sport has now become less barbaric and it's becoming more, well regulated, I'd say.
And we've had past 2 weeks, we've had two controversial knees onto the ground. Does that make you a bit worried for your fight? You don't want to take a knee to the ground.
Listen, there ain't going to be me putting no knees on no ground in my fight. The only thing that's going to be going on the ground is his head on the canvas.
There you go. And speaking of your fight, I noticed obviously you train all around. How has camp been for you? Have you focused in one particular gym or have you been all over?
So, I mean, there's a couple of adjustments that I've made in terms of I'm doing a little bit more boxing than I would normally do. But that was something that I've been wanting to do anyways and adding it into my focusing a lot on grappling, which isn't a bad thing at all. I've still been doing a lot of grappling. I've still been doing like an all around game. Just I guess you could say the areas where I've been improving is more on the sports psychology side, which I have got a sports psychologist just to bring the best out of me. You want to give yourself all best chances to help yourself win. And I heard even from my last fight, I need to be more aggressive and do certain things a certain way and bring back an old mentality mindset that I used to have when I was a kid.
And obviously, you're all around, you're all over for camp training in lots of different places. How has camp been for this fight?
Um, right. So, I mean, in terms of things that have changed sort of since my last fight, it hasn't necessarily been too much different. I guess I could say I've just added the addition of certain things and certain ways of fighting, like just to bring out the best of me. One of which has been adding a sports psychologist. I heard Jimmy Crute did that after his loss to Serkinov, and it seemed to really help him with things that he was doing. And I'm like, do you know what? As tough as I am and stuff like that, and tough how fighters think they are, maybe there is certain things that they could use to sort of unlock their full potential and unlock their own superpowers, if you will. So I feel like that was one thing that has definitely helped me to gather even more confidence in myself and just give me like the best outlook to win. And it's really helped out. So that's one thing. Another thing is I've been doing a bit more boxing. I've been doing it a lot anyways, but I was very grappling heavy in a lot of my other camps, and it's just like sort of steered away from like my base, which is like my kickboxing and my striking and stuff like that, which when you're fighting a lot of high level grapplers, you're just thinking about defending and working the grappling as much as possible. And not to say that I neglected it, because I was always working it, but now like there's been a bit more of an emphasis. And so I've had a lot of boxing training as well. And just the whole mindset of being an aggressor and attacking. I've been focusing a lot on defending. I want to defend. I'm fighting against the best wrestlers in the world, the best grapplers in the world, trying to defend their best moves and trying to defend things that they're doing, when in reality I should realistically also be working on my best attacks and my best things, which I could say I was doing less of. So I've been working on more of having an aggressive offensive mindset, as opposed to a defensive, wanting to get away from things. So now I've been working now I feel like I've probably got the most all-rounded game I've ever had. The skill sets are feeling very sharp. So yeah, I mean, when you put all of those things together, I feel like I'm like the most devastating athlete and fighter that I've ever been. The training sessions have gone absolutely amazing, and I'm just ready to go out there and put it on show. I feel like there was an old side of me, especially from my kickboxing days when I was a child, where I was literally just go all out, and that was the real gladiator spirit that I had. And not to say that I was losing it, but I think with more of a defensive style, I wasn't being able to bring it out. So with this new way of thinking, the new way of training, the new way of fighting, I can definitely for sure tell you that there'll be a spectacular showing on March 27th for you lot.
There you go. And what always seems to be the most challenging part of camp?
The beginning, I'd say. Like especially when I was at the beginning of camp, it seemed like doing 2-a-days was very hard on the body. Like I was feeling more sore, and I could have easily said, "Oh no, well I feel this full. Let me take an extra bit of rest." And I actually think it would have took me longer to get adjusted. I feel like I adjusted very quickly to all the appropriate training sessions that I had, along with the strength and conditioning and stuff like that, or pushing past it where you have to go somewhere but then have to train, only have a little bit of rest and train again. And I got really used to that, and then my body just managed to adapt. Like I was like, how the hell am I recovering so fast? I mean, I don't know what I've got in this coffee, but man, like I'm feeling, I'm feeling well rested and well recovered. It's been helping with my sleep. So overall, mate, everything that I've been doing has just been going really amazing. Like I can't really say anything. So as soon as I got to like mid towards now, at the end of camp, I really feel like I'm peaking and really getting all my tools and all my abilities at their best. And one thing I forgot to mention in the last question was we've also added strategy. Strategy is now another big part, like because you have like your main tendencies of fighters that they have. Obviously, this is why I know things can change in fights. That's why I'm always just preparing just to be able to fight and be the best person that I can be. But again, if you know where their tendencies are, you know where they're most likely going to do something. When it goes in the heat of the fight, they're going to lean back on those things that they've been used to doing the whole time, which is evidence in my fight against Crute, which is what they capitalized on. And, big credit to them. and his team. So for me, we did take more time into account of learning the strategy of what we're going to do for this particular opponent, and then it's your job to adapt and overcome when it gets into the fight. But yeah, overall, man, I've been feeling actually really, really good this camp. I haven't had to take many sessions off, and that is a very, very dangerous sign for my opponent.
And looking at your social media, you seem to have a really strong connection and bond with your dad. And I've got to ask, what's the best moment that you've had together whilst you've been in your fight career?
I think without a doubt, it's got to be the one that really sticks out in my head is when I became Cage Warriors champion, and it was a fight where I was a massive underdog to the point where people had no idea who the hell I was. I mean, thinking you're fighting in the biggest promotion in the world and no one really knows who you are. And then it was only until after the fight that everyone knew what was going on. And it was a fight where both me and my dad knew that we're going to win, but everyone else didn't. Everyone else sort of counted us out. And we both said, well, we're going to go and do this guy and we're going to go and make it to the UFC. And everything that we'd been saying had come to fruition. And, we put a lot of hard graft in, and it was, a lot of tough times, but being able to have the belt, tell my dad that I'm going to win it, tell him that's going to be your birthday present this year, and then being able to wrap it around his shoulder, that was a very special moment in my career, and probably the most to this day. Like just being able to put the belt on my dad and just say we did this, like we've been working so bloody hard, and now we finally made it to at that time, which felt like the pinnacle of the sport. So yeah, I think that was probably the most like, especially in the locker room, we definitely were a bit more emotional than normal. It was a very sort of surreal moment because you'd been visualizing and expecting it to happen, and then it finally happens. Like it was crazy. It was an amazing feeling.
And how would you compare that to your your signet, you're getting signed, you're into the UFC, and your first win into the UFC?
Do you know what? Like actually getting signed to the UFC, it felt like the next logical step. It felt like the building block of what my career to be. It was like the next logical thing where like there's got to be nothing else really left for me to do. But I was ready, obviously, to take whatever steps was needed to get to the UFC. But I knew I had a good management. I had good people around me. So when we finally got there, it was like, I can't believe it. Like, again, we've made another dream come true. But at the same time, it's like me and my dad were like, well, we knew this was going to happen. Now we know we need to ramp things up a little bit. And we know that, this was our goal the whole time. Like it felt like not a surprise because we knew this is what the hell we've been working for all these years. This is what we've been doing. So at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, we've reached a milestone. But it's like, when you got a to-do list and you're doing your chores around your house and you're able to just tick things off. So it's the same here. It's just, okay, well, that's another tick off the box. So as much as it was like crazy and surreal and amazing to get signed, it's like we knew this was going to happen. And then the big thing from the debut, I mean, able to finish it in such a way and then get the 50 grand bonus, like, like an accumulation of hard work and dedication, and finally being able to perform at the highest level. It felt like normal. It felt like just another fight, but just with more intentions, like more media, more stuff like that. But I felt like I'd finally put my foot in the door. Like I've not just been signed, but I've actually put my foot in the door. I've put my foot down and said, nah, I'm in the UFC. I've made it. Like I'm actually a legitimate fighter, and now I need to go and prove myself even more. So the actual dream of making it to the belt and stuff like that, and being able to take care of my family and stuff like that is all these things are now finally being realized. Like I'm able to make it happen. All I've got to do is keep training hard, keep winning these fights, and I can make more dreams come true. So yeah, it's been a crazy experience, definitely.
And if I'm correct, in your pro career, I think you've only been to decision once. You have lots of first round, second round, you've got a fourth round stoppage. Do you always look for the finish, or is it just something that comes about?
Always looking for the finish. Funny enough, every single sequence in maybe like the last 4 fights that I had were all my dad shouting, telling me what to do. So it's mad because my dad had those instincts and those finishing, those primal instincts to tell me what I need to land. He was the one who told me to throw that right hand against Hamlet. He was the one who told me to throw the elbows both times in those fights. He was the one who told me to throw the spinning back kick against Wojciech. He was the one who's screaming it from the top of his lungs, like, what, like, why the hell are you not even doing it? And then I finally did it, and then it paid off. And again, my dad was like, well, I told you to, but like the first thing he said, I told you to bloody throw it. And I'm just like, yeah. No, I could definitely see now why you're telling me to throw that kick. So, but in fights, I'm always looking for the finish, without a doubt. I never want to give out a boring fight or, have to grind out a fight to get towards a decision. You want to make it solidify. You never want to leave it in the judges' scorecards. Like, even if you think you've won, there's been loads of times where, it's gone the other way and you're like, what the hell was that from? And that's you losing your bonus and stuff like losing your win bonus and stuff like that. It's like, I don't want that to happen. I want to solidify and know that I'm going to win. And the only way you're going to get noticed out here is if you finish people. I mean, yeah, you can have fight of the night and, put on barn burners, but that's more like, especially when the fights are like really well matched, like that's more like, towards title fights, maybe even. But even then, I'm always looking to put the guy away. That there's no better feeling than going and finishing your opponent. And yeah, that's the way I want to fight. That's the way I want to go out there. I don't just want to grind out a decision. I want to go and finish my opponent and do it in spectacular style, so people will remember me.
In the back of your mind, do you sometimes want to go further in fights to showcase your skills more, or are you happy with just, I'll be in there 1 or 2 rounds and I'm just going to knock you out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I want to show my skill sets, obviously, and I feel like in every fight I'm getting so much better, and I'm adding so many more new different skill sets. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. I mean, even then, the less the opponent knows, the better. The less footage they have of you, imagine the only footage they have of you is you just knocking everyone out and finishing them early. They don't really have much to go. I want to be entertained. I want to be that guy that, like I said, that people remember, that they'll be like, oh my gosh, he went in and just like absolutely blitzed the guy and just did crazy things. So for me, that's what I want to do. You want to leave a legacy when you're in your fight career, and especially in the UFC. So yes, there will be times where I'll have to, really dig deep with my main skill sets to be able to overcome opponents. But at the same time, I'm looking to put you away. And as well, you can't really get 50 grand bonuses unless you're finishing people. I mean, the amount of talented fighters there are on UFC cards, you're going to have to really show out if you want to do something. So yeah, I'm definitely more of a guy who's going to want to go for the finish. At the end of the day, my skill set will get no matter how I do the fight.
With that being said, would you be able to give me a prediction for your upcoming fight?
I believe I'll finish him within 3 rounds. If not in the first round, man, like, look, at the end of the day, I believe my skill set is better than his. He's a very good fighter. He's incredibly talented and very powerful, and he's got some very good attributes. No wonder, he's won those fights in the UFC. But at the same time, I do believe I'm a much better fighter, and I'm going to go and prove that on the 27th. But one thing you will definitely see in this fight is me being the aggressor and me going for the finish. But without a doubt, the only thing that's going to happen is me getting my hand raised and finishing my opponent.
Where do you think a win puts you?
Definitely in the top 25 in the world. I've got to take it step by step. I'm not going to rush anything. Whatever the UFC is going to want for me next. I mean, they're always talking about how calling out fighters and this and that. And yeah, I understand if there's a fight that you definitely feel that you want to have next, and yes, it's good to call out fighters. But at the same time, when you're going into the grand scheme of it, I feel like I could beat any one of the top 15 now, especially the way that my training's been going. I said that before, even when I fought Kroot before, and I still feel that now. So I'm going in there with even more intensity and more confidence. Like I know what skill sets I have. I just got to go out there and perform. So whatever they have for me to climb that ladder, I'll do it. If it means another fight outside the top 15 and then get into the top 15 after that, people have had their own particular paths towards the top. So I'm just looking to take my steps towards getting towards the gold. So whatever steps those are, I'm willing to take it. But the main thing is every fight you take and every step you do take, you're putting on the best performance of your life and showing the fans exactly who the hell you are. So yeah, that's what I aim to do within the next coming years.
And you're quite a young fighter in a seemingly old division full of, stars like Glover, Yan, obviously the champion. What advantages and disadvantages does that have for you?
Um, I would say there's only really advantages. I mean, you could say that, given a couple of years, there's always going to be other young bucks coming up and, trying to do their thing and, make their name on the stage. And then I'm going to be then one of those older guys at some point, but it's not, now's the time. I'm not even in my peak, I'm 27, I think fourth youngest in the division. It means that, all eyes are going to be the guys that are coming up in the division. And then obviously going towards the title, you're going to be closer towards your 30s maybe and stuff like that. So I think being young means that I recover faster. I can train harder. I can still train smart and hard and get a skill. I'll be able to improve my skill set much more than probably the older fighters because I'll have to have less recovery time. It's just how it is with the human anatomy. So that's where one of the big advantages is. And it's just, when you've got a young person coming up, it's always the eyes are on them. There's, the momentum going to that side. And, at the end of the day, you've got to use that momentum to your advantage, like feel the energy, feel the power of your youth. And, obviously these guys are crafty veterans and they've been in there a lot more, so they have more experience. But at the end of the day, it's proven that young guys can come up and do some crazy things. So I feel there are no disadvantages to me being the youngest of the division. If anything, it puts more eyes on me because we are the future of the division, and I'm looking forward to go and make the future of the division become all Baltic Gladiator.
There you go. And is there anyone in that division that you'd really like to fight?
I really liked Kennedy Nzechukwu, I believe is his name. Very humble guy, very good athlete. And yeah, he looked very impressive in his last win. So he's a good fighter. You got guys like Devin Clark, you got William Knight and Lonzo Menderfield that are also fighting on my card. So there's a lot of good fighters, a lot of good fighters even outside the top 15. But and I do feel at some point, obviously, now our paths are, we're on completely different paths at the minute. But I do feel once again our paths will cross, and I do believe the Jimmy Crute rematch will happen at some point down the line. He's making his upwards trajectory, and he's going into the top 10, and fair play to him. He definitely deserves it. But I'm going to do my thing. I'm gonna work. Climb up the ranks, and then hopefully someday that fight will also happen. And I know that's going to be an absolute barn burner for sure. So yeah, it's very exciting times for the light heavyweight division, and I can't wait for it all to unfold.
And it certainly must be harder fighting from the UK because most of the events are in America, so it must affect turnaround time and activity. So with that being said, do you have a turnaround time in mind, and like how many times a year you want to fight, or just see as it comes?
I want to fight as many times as possible, mate. As long as I'm not injured, as long as I'm healthy and I feel good, and I don't get suspended or anything like that, I'm good to go. I'm ready to fight. I've written on my board, like on my vision board, I want to fight 5 times this year. I want to make 5 big wins, 5 big finishes, and get myself right up into the ranks. You've only got a short space of time to do this fighting career. You've got to make the most of it. So that's exactly what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to go and fight as early as possible. I mean, if there's any pullouts as well, I'll definitely, I'll keep myself ready and fit and active ready to go and step in whenever I need to and go and rack more wins and get more money. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's a lucrative business. You got to make the most of it. Yeah, I think in general, with UK fighters, now it's become a lot easier. Like before, I think it might have been a bit harder to get visas and stuff like that. But given the situation with the COVID and stuff like that, it seems like because they've had to run these events, I don't know, there seems to be a pathway made for UK fighters to be able to fight in Vegas, especially with me fighting twice already in Abu Dhabi. Now I've, already sort of had 2 fights with the company. Now it's just made me more known in that area, so it makes it easier for me. Same with all the other fighters, it makes it easier for them. I think the pathway for fight, as long as you've got a good manager and you've got a good team around you, it's actually very easy for UK fighters to go out to the US. Obviously, you got like long flights and jet lag and all this kind of stuff. But in reality, if I did want to make a quick turnaround, I could easily make it because I have easier access to visas. I have easier access to all these different things. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I got an amazing management, Iridium Sports Agency, and grateful that I've been given such amazing opportunities. So like I say, I want to fight. I want to fight a lot, and I want to fight big.
There you go. And your nickname is the Baltic Gladiator, and that is a pretty cool nickname to have. And I'm sure, as of heritage, Baltic heritage is very important to you. And I want to know, obviously, apart from you, are there any other Baltic athletes or celebrities that you maybe get inspired by?
Sergey Mazloboyev is another Lithuanian athlete, very good kickboxer. He's also got quite a good MMA record as well. I believe it's 11-6. So but he's a very good kickboxer. Fought very high level in Glory. You got Egis Kavalauskas. He's a very good boxer. He's fought against Crawford, I believe. And it's kind of unheard of for a boxer from Lithuania to be fighting for a world title. So he's a very big inspiration for me. Eimantas Stanionis, I think is his name. I'm not sure if I got his name right, but he's another Lithuanian boxer who's seemingly taken everyone out. There's a lot of fighters. I mean, I think Lithuania as a whole, as a country, are now starting to really rise up. You got Jonas Valanciunas out there in America doing his thing in basketball. So, it seems like what was once a very small country that no one really heard of, but now people are starting to hear the Lithuanian heritage and flag so much more around the world because their athletes are now starting to do bigger things. And I think it also comes from the hope that it is possible for us to do these things. Unfortunately, it's not at the point where you could do it from Lithuania. I mean, look, I got into the UFC from Cage Warriors, which is in the UK, and other people have had to go to either Japan to fight or elsewhere, or go to the US to play ball. So really, it is quite hard in the country itself to make a name for yourself. But I feel like the opportunities now to branch out and do things are much better for Lithuanian athletes. So it's amazing. Having the Baltic heritage is definitely a great one, and we are all a heritage coming down from a long line of warriors, and one that have been tested through battle. So that is definitely something that I take with me in spirit to go out and bring the best performances of myself in the cage.
And you're a modern day gladiator, but if you were a Roman gladiator 2,000 years ago fighting in the Colosseum, what would your weapon of choice be and why?
That is a very interesting question. I would have never thought about that, actually. Do you know what? Funny enough, every time I think of someone that replicates a gladiator, it would be Maximus from the film with Russell Crowe. So to be honest, just like a really well carved sword, a sword and a shield. For me, that would be my weapon of choice. I know some people go for arrows or axes or maces or whatever, but for me, good old fashioned sword and a shield. I think it's like the most primal sort of way to attack someone in terms of having a weapon. There's definitely probably the most skill involved with the reflexes and stuff like that. So yeah, that'll probably be the weapon of choice that I would have for sure.
And obviously there's modern day gladiator fighting and MMA. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with it, but they dress up medieval MMA. They're dressing up as knights in armor and just bashing each other with swords and shields. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think it's it's absolutely crazy. Like, in the hell invented that sort of stuff? I mean, it looks quite brutal. I mean, some of the sword shots that they do on these guys are insane. I can imagine it must be really heavy. I think it's just a different type of fighting. You can't really fight MMA in there. You literally have to use your weapon. I mean, you can kick and punch and do whatever you want, but
No
you
rear
got these
naked
massive, like,
chokes.
big old blocks on top. Yeah, no rear naked choke, especially with all that armor. But you got to think that's probably how they used to fight back in the day, like you know, like in the medieval times. So I think it's really interesting. It seems quite brutal, but again, is there really any need? I mean, I don't know. I don't see that becoming like sort of a mainstream thing, especially like now that the have obviously sports like MMA about. But I do find it is quite interesting. I mean, now you've even got. It's funny how the more like savage things are becoming more normal. You know, like bare knuckle boxing, for example. Whoever thought that that would
Mm.
get legalized anywhere? Next thing you know, it's like people are earning really good money there. So, you know, I think this is definitely the change of tide for combat sports. Combat sports are now becoming the pinnacle of sports in the world. Not just in America now, but like, you know, like everywhere. You know, like you had NFL and MLB and stuff like that, but that's all based in America. Not many people here know about any of that. Unless you lived in America, like I did. That's why I still find it interesting. But like MMA is, you know, it's very diverse. Everyone knows about it. Anywhere you go, people are going to know who the main champions are in the UFC. So yeah, combat sports are definitely making waves for sure.
And from modern day gladiators to in the light heavyweight division like yourself to gladiators who are on your card, Stipe and Francis, would you be able to give me a prediction and a breakdown of that fight?
I feel that obviously Francis would have learned from his mistakes. He would have worked a lot in his wrestling and his grappling, and he's become a lot more humble in his approach. He's got a very good team behind him. I believe he's at Team Couture, which is a very good place. He's moved over there like fully, made his main training camp. So they're really working on stuff. Like now he has a lot of direction. In the first fight, he had no direction. He just had a load of guys holding pads and him just swinging as hard as he can at it. And you know, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't say he didn't work on the other things, but I feel like that. I think he's even said that's what he's mainly doing because he wanted to make a name for himself and really do well so quickly. And you know, because he came from nothing and he wanted to make something, he
Mm.
sort of rushed into that fight, and Stipe just overtook that, and you know, had a much higher skill level and was able to weather the storm. And then 5 rounds became a bit of a problem for Ngannou. So I think this round he's going to be more well conditioned. He's going to be obviously have better grappling. But again, Stipe is a crafty veteran. He knows what the hell he's doing. He'll be able to figure out ways to do. His boxing is extremely good, so I know he'll still be able to use his head movement to get out of the way of these shots. It is a smaller cage, so there'll be less space for Stipe to move around these big swinging, lugging shots from Ngannou. But I feel like it'll be a bit more controlled from Ngannou. So I feel this fight would actually go 5 rounds. But to say who's going to win that fight is going to be very difficult because if you're talking about power and athleticism, obviously you've got to give that to Ngannou. But if you're talking about craftiness and overall skill set and years of being a champion and experience, you got to give it to Stipe.
Mm.
So I still believe that Stipe will retain the title, but I think that it'll be a very interesting fight. And even then, there'll be other fights that will be very interesting to make with Ngannou if he loses, or if either of them lose, for example. So, I mean, I love both fighters. That's why I don't want to give a prediction. I mean, I really love both of them. Like for me, it's just one of them fights where you're just going to sit back and watch in awe as to, you know, like you're just going to sit back and watch and think, you know what, this is an amazing fight, two amazing athletes. I do not want any of them to lose. So for that matter, I mean, yes, I could say skill wise, I'll probably be steep and, you know, going more towards, leaning more towards Stipe. But at the same time, you can't argue that Ngannou is an absolute beast. So we'll just leave it at that.
So I know you didn't get to go to Fight Island fight there. If not, I know you were there, but you have been to one island, if I am correct, and that is the island of Fernando's.
Oh my lord! Here they go. I knew somewhere along the line a question like that would come.
And
I'm
for
guessing
those,
you'd like to know about the experience of Take Me Out, yes?
of course, and for those who don't know, Modestas here has been on a show in England called Take Me Out, which is essentially like a dating show, and people you come out and people buzz you, and then whoever's left, you get to pick, and you get to go on a date on an island. So I want to ask, how was that experience?
It was honestly, I know it sounds crazy thinking, oh, you're just on like, a show on British television, but it was actually quite life-changing in terms of just me as a person, and it's helped me in my overall confidence just within myself, because realistically it is quite a scary thing to be, shaking your ass in front of a load of girls, like in a studio with your parents looking at you and everyone scrutinizing you. And, like, it's very nerve-wracking. I think it's more nerve-wracking than fighting itself. Like, it's actually, you have to have a lot more confidence to be able to do something like that than actually going out into the cage and fighting, in my opinion. There's always, like, the fear of rejection and the fear of, making a cock of yourself. But at the end of the day, it just taught me that, you should, don't care what people think, and just embrace every moment. Just bring. That's one thing that I think in the second part of my 20s that I'm really starting to realize is you just got to be yourself, enjoy it, and don't let anyone say anything about you, and just go out and just literally just embrace and feel every moment, and don't be taken by the nerves, but just really enjoy the experience. So, even going down the love lift itself, like the preparation that you had to do, like in the back when they put your makeup on, you're like in this one room, like pretty much the whole day. You only do one dress rehearsal, and that is it. You don't do any other rehearsals other than that. And then you're literally just sitting in this room the whole day, just waiting, like with anxious, with anxiety, just waiting until you're about to go out on stage. And the worst part for me was being the last one to go out there. So they literally had every other guy, like all my mates, like because you're in the room, you're like getting them pumped up, like, yeah, you're gonna go and smash it, like, yeah, like, oh, lads, yeah, lads, do you know what I mean? Like getting everyone ready to go, and then they're all going one by one, and the next thing you know, I'm the last geezer left in the room, and there's no one around me in this dressing room, and I'm just sitting there trying to pump myself up. I'm like, because everyone had left, because all the other guys had left, or they've already gone on the show. So at the beginning, all the other like producers were all there getting all the other guys ready, and then I'm the last one, so I was left with no one. I was literally had to get myself pumped up. I was literally shadow boxing. I swear to God, I was shadow boxing before I went out there. I've got to make it as much of a fight as possible, because for me, that's my realm. Not bloody going down like wearing skinny jeans out in front of all these girls. Do you know what I mean? And it's funny because I only just started getting like confidence, even just with not just with girls, but just in a lot of other things. My confidence really grew when after I was about 23. Like when I started making my comeback, like things just started working a lot. I learned a hell of a lot about myself from 23 to 25. Like I made a real journey in self-discovery, and I feel like that was amazing. And I know that I wish I would have had that journey earlier, but at the same time, I'm just glad everyone's got their own journey. I'm glad that it just happened, and I think everyone has it at some point, but you've got to really put yourself in some crazy situations in order to really earn your potential, if you will. But then so then when they put the makeup on, I went out to the back, and then you hear like the pump up people and Paddy in the, and you're literally behind a curtain the whole time, and then you walk up, and then they put you in the circle, in the love lift, as they infamously call it. And then they lock the door, they lock the thing behind you, and they're just sitting there telling you, oh, you'll be fine, it'll be great. And I'm just like, shut the hell up, like, it ain't gonna be fine. I'm about to go out here, I'm gonna embarrass myself. Like, and then afterwards I was like, oh, come on, you got this, come on, just get your best moves going. Like, I was literally mate, I swear to God, like I was shaking so bad. I'm like, oh, what the hell? And then as soon as they say single man reveal yourself, and the lift slowly goes down, you're just like, oh my God, we're actually, when like there's a point where you just have to say, fuck it, I've got to just go and do it now. Like there's no turning back. Like I can't make it look like I've got no confidence. I literally just got to just go out and just do my thing, and then that's it. As soon as I got down the lift, and then I started walking around and like seeing the girls and seeing the crowd and everything, I just thought, do you know what I mean, just enjoy this whole experience, because you only get once to be able to do something like this. And then after that, it was really pretty easy. It was mainly just in the back when they said, like, you got to think of what comebacks you're going to have. That's what I was more worried about than anything. I was like, what the hell I'm going to say back to these girls when they like take the mick out of me or something. I'm like, oh my God, I have to like actually rehearse things. And I was a bit ashamed because they one of my best comebacks, which was the first thing that I said, because there's only one girl that turned a light off when I came down, and she said, "Oh yeah, like I think you're good looking, but you ain't got no facial hair." And I said, "Listen, what I lack in facial hair, I'll make up for in charisma." And like they didn't even add that in the show. Like that was like my best line. I'm like, how could you miss that one out? Like that is like my bread and butter right there. I've been practicing that for the last 4 hours. Like, come on now. But yeah, so I mean, and then you went on the show, and then literally everything's just so fast paced. Everything's just like as soon as you get done, boom, boom, boom. They just literally just funnel everyone out as quickly as possible. The next morning, you leave for Fernando's, which is basically Tenerife. You go to like and at this point I was cutting weight for a fight, so I couldn't eat any. They had a massive buffet with all amazing stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, like all my mates that who I'm still friends with now, the guys who are on the same episode as me, they're all eating what they wanted, like pasta, burgers, and whatever. And I'm out here bloody eating salads. And then not only that, like because we stayed at a 6-star hotel, like it was next level, like mate, it was almost like the W Hotel in Abu Dhabi. Like it was next level, yeah. And then we had to. The lads were just going to try and find stuff to do because obviously we're sitting there like bored. So we tried to find stuff. They tried to find stuff too. I had to go to the gym, go on the treadmill, and do shadow boxing because I had to cut weight. So like I'm out here like I have to actually work because I've got a fight coming up in 2 weeks, and these guys are literally able to do whatever they wanted. But they came in for moral support, and they sort of helped pump me up while I was training, which was good, which was very nice of them. And then afterwards, I got a shower, and then we sort of just hung out a little bit, and then next morning you're on your date straight away in the morning. Went out to like some desolated farm in the middle of nowhere to do wine tasting, which was probably the worst thing they could have possibly picked for me. I said, "Couldn't you pick something else?" Especially when I told you, like, I got a fight coming up, but I had to just roll with it. And then, like I said, like even all of our dates weren't the most exotic. Like some people got to do jet skiing. I'm like, why the hell am I doing wine tasting? Like, come on now. Out of all the things you could have chosen for me to do, but especially when you're in Tenerife and there's like excursions that you could do, right? But they wanted more sit down talk type things, so they could record you talking, and it's a bit weird because they're all out like it's like you're performing a play in front of you, like your family at home. Like I don't know, it's like really weird. Like you've got like all these camera people, and then like they're just recording. They're all right, we're just gonna let you like sort of, but then. So they start recording outside, and then they're telling you what to say. They're telling you talk about this and talk about that, and we're just like, oh yes, the weather is great, isn't it? Or oh, this is really beautiful here, and I'm just like, I feel like a robot. They only did that for like the first 5 minutes, and then after they said you can do whatever the hell you want, but you can say and do whatever you want, but. It was a little bit like that. Was a little bit like I thought, oh, like even me and the girl that we were like when we're doing it, we're like looking at each other like, do we seriously have to repeat? Because they tell you, can you repeat that? And we're just like, well, I can't say it with the same enthusiasm that I just said it just now. Do you know what I mean? It just looks fake.
Yeah.
So obviously they edit a lot of stuff out and stuff. But then it started raining. We were sitting outside and we had to go indoors. We had to do the whole thing all over again. So as you can imagine, it was quite painful for a lot of it. But then after, when we got into the actual day, we just started flowing and doing whatever and saying whatever. It was actually all right. Like we ended up being cool with each other. Like we had an all right time. And then next thing we all go out on the town in the evening. We weren't allowed to go like nuts, but they allowed us to go out. And so I just went out with the whole crew, and then we went, like when we went to the other hotel that got us booked in was like some 3-star hotel with cockroaches like running about. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we're just there for one night and then literally go home the next morning. So it was all done within 3 days. But it was honestly the most crazy, thrilling, scary, fulfilling. It was probably one of the most fulfilling experiences because my confidence just shot up, and it just really just showed me that in life, live to really enjoy every moment, no matter how scary or crazy or daunting it is, because like I say, you only have one shot at this, so why sit there being a hermit crab, not really getting the best out of yourself? And I feel like that helped me to understand it gets the best out of myself. So I made a lot of learning curves over the last couple of years, and I'm very thankful for it. I wish I'd had known some of it earlier, but at the same time, everyone's journey is different. So I'm thankful.
I can safely say I'm pretty sure you are the only MMA fighter professional who has tapped out Paddy McGuinness.
Oh, they need to give me a trophy for that, don't they? They need to give me some sort of award. Like, do you know what I mean? That should be written down in the history books.
And do you remember the question that you asked the two girls?
Yeah, I said, if you could say something to me in between rounds, what would you say to get me pumped up for the next round?
So my final question is, if I was an MMA fighter and you were my coach, what would you say to pump me up in between rounds?
Do you know what? It's hard to say because obviously you judge by how the round's going.
Yeah,
But
or
for me,
before the fight.
to be honest, I'd say I'll tell you the things that you're doing well. I'll tell you the things that you need to maybe just do a bit better. But I'll say, nah, you're doing great. You're landing that jab. It's working perfectly. I reckon if you do this, you're going to absolutely land that again. You just got to go forward at him. But try not to do this and that. You're going to absolutely smash him this round. Just keep it going. You definitely won that round. And keep it going. But obviously, if you're down and around, I say you really got to pull this back, man. You got to throw something. So I'm going to shout at you to go and do something. And just go out there and just let loose. So, there's so many different cornering tactics, but you definitely get words of wisdom for sure.
If I win, are we going to Fernando's? That's the question.
Listen, I think we've got to choose something a bit more. Well, to be fair, I mean Tenerife's not too bad, but we've got to, if you win, we've got to go out on the town in Vegas or something. Do you know what I mean? Like really, really, really get something good out of it.
Well, there you go. And I've got to ask, if you want to shout out anything, any sponsors, management, anyone at all, the floor is yours.
Right, mate. I could literally. I've probably got to get myself ready with a long list of people because I've honestly had so many people that helped me out in my life that I really can't even put into words how grateful and lucky I am to have such amazing people around me. One of which, obviously, including my dad. But so obviously my dad been a big part of it. Denison Sutherland, Danny Batten, Raymond, all the Lucases from training, Mosen helping me when they were wrestling for this camp, Terry Lloyd for boxing. I've got a massive stable of people. Ed Ingemels with the jiu-jitsu, Will Curry, who's also another fighter on the scene. Check him out. But Iridium Sports Agency, Jason House, Jacob, Lance, Ed, all of them are absolutely amazing. My career wouldn't be as exciting or amazing as it is without them, and I've got to give them a massive shout out. And I'm so happy that I've got with them. More at MMA, check out their stuff because they got. I mean, listen, I wear UFC stuff all the time, but listen, if I want some like really nice, comfortable tracksuits that look sick, more at MMA is where it's at. And their boxing gloves are amazing. Their MMA sparring gloves, I only use their MMA sparring gloves. Fighter Shop UK as well. They give me anything I want. Lithuanian Brothers, got to thank them. Big one for anyone that's around my area. And so obviously we live in the sort of same area. Exactly. If anyone needs physio, go to Leanne. It's called Distinct Physiotherapy. She's based in St. Albans. I think she's moving shortly, but if you look her up, Distinct Physiotherapy, she is number one. I mean, how the hell do you go from dislocating your knee 3 weeks before a title fight and being okay and still fighting and winning in spectacular fashion? It's only with a good physio. So, she's handled all my injuries. Everything I throw at her, she always seems to have an answer. As much as she probably wants to kick me in the head for giving her these problems right before fights, she always comes through and she always pulls through for me. And we've been really good friends for a long time, having worked at the Gym and Tonic. So I've got to give her a massive shout out as well. And listen, I've got so many people, like I said, just helping me out, helping me do my thing. I'm sorry if I've forgotten anyone, but just know that everyone who's been helping me. Oh, and Adwoir, thank you very much for the cap. Sick stuff. They've actually got some really nice clothing line as well. So check them out. They're up and coming. And Sancte Pue is another brand that has sort of worked a little bit with me as well. Check them out because the guy who runs it was my one of the people that was on the same show as me on Take Me Out. So obviously go and check out his stuff. But yeah, absolutely amazing. Got to thank everyone for helping me out, for my training, everything. God bless everyone.